Good evening, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. I went to Taliban today and I had an experience which is, thankfully is not familiar. It doesn't happen often, and yet it did illustrate the difference between what I think is the temperament of someone who is Filipino and someone who is a foreigner. And there is a huge difference, and it may be something that you're going to have to get used to. And there are a couple of sort of foreigner in a foreign land rules that maybe you should think about, because if you've come from a Western country, you'll probably be thinking in terms of the squeaky wheel gets the attention. Okay, so you'll go in and you will, if you're not being served or something, then you'll call out for the manager and you'll point out to him, look, I've been standing here for 15 minutes. What the heck is going on? What happened to your customer service? You know, I need to be on my way. I'm a busy person, and you will count your complaint as getting you in and out of wherever it is that you are. And the next time they see you coming, they might even serve you a little bit faster because you're a pain in the butt and they want you out of there. Well, here it's different, and I've had this happen 3 times. Once today, another time I watched it happen when, surprisingly, a young, quite aggressive Filipino or Filipina woman did the complaining. But one time that I was waiting at the ATM machine, all right, and this is one where the idea of a line is usually strictly adhered to, okay, so people don't butt in and push in, which quite often they might do in other situations. But we were there, I'm saying we, my fellow ATM in-line waiters were there, and I saw a woman come up from out of, that popular phrase, came out of nowhere, and she had with her a security man in what looked like paramilitary outfit, with the G.I. Joe boots on, and he had holding a quick action shotgun. Okay, with just the handle. It's like a sawn off thing, and it's very common here, and these security people have them. But it looked like he'd come off one of those high security bank trucks that come in, you know, like a Brinks Mat truck. Anyway, they marched up to the front, and as soon as a person who was there had finished, she went to the front. Well, thinking about this and thinking, well, hell, as much as I don't want to go up and confront someone who's got a guy with her with a double barrel shotgun or whatever it is, I went up and I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, can you? I'm curious. Can you explain to me what it is that makes you think it's okay to go up to the front of the line when even behind me, we have people who will still be here in 30 minutes time, because it usually takes about 5 minutes for each person to get served." And she said, "Well, I have people waiting for me." And I said, "Well, I do understand that. And actually, I understand it because I do too. And I'm sure," and I looked behind me and I indicated the people that are all standing there, listening to what I'm saying and agreeing, but not saying anything. And I said, "Well, you know, we're all waiting. We all have stuff that we need to do." Now, thankfully, the armed guard that was with her, who was there to lend some authority, stepped back when I politely made my inquiry. He stepped back, and he obviously was not there to do any more than just intimidate somebody. Well, the woman eventually said, "Look, I'm very sorry. I'll just give up on this and I'll go. And she did. And so I stepped back in my place in line, and I think that a few people were, maybe a few were saying bloody foreigner, or the Visayan equivalent, or some were saying, well, that's good. Well, I was at the same ATM when a young Filipina woman came up, and she took umbrage at somebody who was there and who had about 3 or 4 different cards that she was pushing in and getting out money, and then put that in, and then she got the next one. And obviously she was operating for about 3 or 4 or 5 or possibly more people in her little community, so that they all didn't have to go and get in line. Well, this lady thought that that was wrong, and she went up and she pointed out, you know, it's a fairly good civil rule that you only use 2 cards, and then you get back in line and let everybody get on with their business. And she got quite angry about that. Well, I'd forgotten what happened on that. But today, or was it today? I went, yes, today. I went and I was waiting, and I was now 3rd in line, and then 4th in line behind me was another foreigner. And the foreigner was complaining that things were not going fast enough. And there was a lady that was there where I was 3rd and he was 4th, and there was a lady at the machine, and she did seem to be struggling to get everything done, right? So she pushed a number in, and it kind of went on a little bit, and the foreigner behind me started to complain, well, yeah, lady, it's not going to get any different, and it wasn't pleasant. And then when that lady was just about ready to go, or the next one was, a woman came up and spoke to the woman that was in line 2 ahead of me and said, do you mind if I go next? And the Filipina lady that's there in front of me, 2 people in front, said, well, okay, what can she say? No. Anyway, then the lady went up and went in and started doing something, and then a man joined her, and then and in the end, the man behind me, the expat, was starting to get louder. So I went up and I did my polite foreigner. I said, excuse me, but there are lots of people who are in line and have been waiting patiently, and you know, well, the man finished what he was doing. It must have been a very quick inquiry or something, and the woman came up to where we were standing, which was a couple of steps away from the ATM machine, and she started to apologize. I'm sorry. Well, the expat behind me started to get louder and ruder, you know. It was over, and in the end I said, well, look, there's no need to make it unpleasant, you know. Well, the woman departed. The next lady, who was, didn't know what to say about any of this and didn't say anything, and she went up, and she was fairly quick, and so was the man that was immediately in front of me, and I got to do my thing, and we went. Now, the thing is that it's something that if it was in the West, there would be a to-do about it, and maybe even a fight. And it just illustrated to me the difference between not judging whether something is right or wrong, just different. The Westerners come over here, and compared to the non-confrontational kind of laid-back attitude that most Filipinos have, we as foreigners are quite aggressive and primed, ready to go off. It's like if if there were two grenades and one of them was Filipino and one of them was a foreigner, two hand grenades, the Filipino would have the pin securely in and the grenade in his pocket, not knowing which pocket it was in, and it would seem like the expat or the foreigner would have the pin pulled out in his teeth and holding it together just by his hand. In other words, just ready to go off. We seem to be closer to irritability and anger, certainly, than most everyday on the street meetings that you might have, exchanges that you might have in the Philippines. And I see it quite a bit where somebody will get pushy and go up, and nobody thinks it's worth having a big to-do about it, so they let it go. And then no one goes away with this near violent confrontation, certainly violently abusive, verbally abusive, running in their mind. Well, then he said this, and then I said that, and then the woman said this, and oh my God, and then he got angry, and she got even madder, and then her husband came up, and there's none of that. They just let the woman go. She gets served and she leaves, and then somebody else will look at you and go, as if to say, oh well, another one. It's deemed unworthy of a confrontation. It just isn't worth it. That's how I think the average Filipina thinks. It's just not worth it. And for my money, I try to think, wait, I'm the foreigner. I'm the one who doesn't quite understand what's happening. I was at one of the money cash servers, and I've become the same, that I just don't think it's worth it. And then I was about to step up and go, and I was the next one in line, and a woman came and went straight up and put her slip under the thing. And I thought it might be quick, and it wasn't, and it went on, and like 5 or 6 or 7 minutes later, I thought, well, this is not really right. So I said to the woman, you know, I was waiting, and you were not in line. You were not in line. And she said, actually, sir, I was in line, but they sent me away to get something, and they told me to come straight back to the counter. So I thought, there we go. There's me and my big mouth. Why did I do that? And I try to learn from that. Usually I'm making a terrible mistake and making a terrible fool of myself if I go up and say, what the heck's going on here? Nobody really minds if some old lady goes up and says, this woman today said, well, I'm a retiree, I'm a senior. And the man behind me said, yes, well, I'm a senior too, you know. Well, why should that make any... Is it worth it? I don't think so. Well, this is a foreigner in the Philippines. Be nice. Bye for now.